So my name is Pat. I'm from the MIT Media Lab, and my talk is going to be on the biological cyborg and the future of wearable biotechnology. So how many of you know the MIT Media Lab? Wow, most of you. That's awesome. Yeah, so the Media Lab is a very interesting place. I would like to welcome all of you to come visit me. It's an interdisciplinary research group that work on different aspects of the future, from the future of robot to the future of fabrication technology and so on. And the group that I'm part of is called the Fluid Interfaces Group. And we are not doing anything with water or liquid. The reason that we call fluid interface is that we want to build technology that fluidly and seamlessly integrate with human. And our group is led by Professor Patty Mars, who is really awesome. And you might have seen some of the project in our group in the past, from wearable device that project information on your fingers, or alter ego project that allow you to kind of converge with the AI silently through silent speech, or a project like this where we build a robotic platform with plant as part of it. So you can see that many of these projects are what we call the idea of human-machine symbiosis. We build tools that allow human to kind of connect or collaborate with technology better. And this idea is actually has been coined in 1960, the term cyborg, which stands for the idea of cybernetic organism, right? So you might think that this is actually part of the science fiction, but when this term actually came about, it was actually used in a very practical concept. The term cyborg was coined in 1960 by Professor Manfred Klein, and on that time it was used in the space kind of exploration context. So Manfred Klein was imagining the future of human that go and live on like exoplanet and other kind of Earth and beyond. And he was wondering, how might we create technology to support human life as the extension of the body, not a device that you go and use it, but as something as part of like a digital organ. And this is actually 9 years before Apollo 11, so it's very futuristic back then. And what they proposed in that original paper that coined the term cyborg was a hydrostatic pump that allowed the rat to be able to live without actually worrying about pumping certain hormone or nutrient into its body. And that idea extends to the idea of human and machine symbiosis as well. So in 1960, the idea of human and computer coming together was not really making any sense, because you see the computer in 1960 was like taking up the whole room, and it was really huge, and the computational power is very small. But as we see in the evolution of computer and technology in general, even like in Moore's law also proposed that computer will get much cheaper and much more powerful, and will also be more democratized and accessible as well. And as we see this progression, we start to see technology become more and more integrated with our daily life. From the computer that take the whole room and cannot do many things, to wearable device that we have nowadays that can track our health and so on. So it's a really interesting evolution. This is one of my favorite picture. It's from the Media Lab in 1993, when they actually start to think about the term wearable, and we start to see the idea of cyborg being implemented from wearable technology to Google Glass in 2013 to Apple Watch in 2016. So we have come a long way in terms of becoming one with the machine. But the interesting question that we should ask now, since we are living with smartphone that we cannot really kind of separate our life from, are we already a cyborg? I think this is a very interesting question. Some might argue yes, some might argue no. But if you go back to the Manfred Klein idea in the beginning, he said that the idea of cyborg is that the technology should become something that extend or augment our ability, not something that kind of trap us inside. One might argue that with the smartphone and social media, we are very addicted to that. We are becoming the slave to the machine. So the machine is not really augmenting us. So one thing that we should think about is how do we create technology that's more seamless and allow us to become what Manfred Klein called a free human to explore. And that's kind of like the mission of our group in the Media Lab. Wish to kind of create technology that's naturally and seamlessly enhance human. And how might we do that? How this is a very big question. How might we do that? And the clue is actually in the question itself, right? We have the term, nature in there. So that's kind of tie this presentation to this event here, which is, the idea of biodesign, right? I received this book as my birthday gift from my mother when I was about 12 years old, and it changed my life forever. So I'm now really interested in biodesign, and yeah. My colleague actually think about biodesign kind of like in different category. And if you have like a pure biological system, like a cockroach here, you might see different way that biodesign kind of intervene or integrate itself with the biological system, from biodigital, synthetic biology, biomimicry. Most people would probably are familiar with the idea of biomimicry, right? The use of technology that are inspired or taking strategy it found in nature, and use it to kind of make it more efficiency, make it more sustainable, and so on. Some of the project in the Media Lab also kind of took on this approach, building column or building fabrication technology that follow the way that nature built itself, which is the idea of growth. Some of the author group in the Media Lab also work at the idea of biodesign as using biological material itself as the material for engineering and design. This is a project by Neri Oxman Group called Mushtari, where they try to engineer an artificial gut that contain the bacteria inside. So you can kind of have this genetic engineer bacteria that enhance or make something on behalf of you. Or this project, I think, was here last year by Hiroshi Ishii, Tangible Media Group, where they actually print, bioactuator on the fabric, so the fabric can kind of, open and close when you sweat and help with the kind of ventilation. So this is an example of, engineering at the biological science level. But our group, we are kind of looking at a little bit a little different approach. We are thinking about how might biological material come together with digital technology. The founder of Media Lab, Nicolas Negroponte, who is now in the news, say that bio is the new digital. And I think that one of the reasons that we should think about this integration between these two different worlds is that for the two medium, they have different pro and con. Right, so like for most of you that work with biology, you will know that it's very slow. It takes time to grow. It's really messy, and we in the past we have been focusing on agriculture and healthcare in terms of the biotech. For digital technology, it's much faster. It's very predictable. It's something that is very robust, and people have created multiple applications for this digital world. So how might we bridge the gap between these two things together? So I would like to maybe give some example through my personal work at the Media Lab and even before I joined the Media Lab, and maybe share some of the way I think about this integration between bio and digital. So the first project that I would like to talk about is about using technology to sense, using digital technology to sense the biological information. So the project that I'm exhibiting over there is called Wearable App on the body, that I and my colleague Abi, who is standing over there, was working on. This is a project funded by NASA. We were thinking about, how might the body interface with technology. And one way that we do kind of like a full body reading is when we go to the hospital or go to the lab to get our body kind of checked up, either like yearly or annually. And the idea of having a lab on the body is something that is kind of really compelling, because when you're in space, in the International Space Station, there's no hospital that you can go to. There might be some medical officer on the station that can help you shake up or take saliva or blood sample of your body, but there's actually no way to continuously monitor or intervene in space. So what we prototype is the prototype of what we call a wearable lab, which is a wearable device that has some of the functionality inspired by medical equipment used in the hospital. In this case, what we prototype is a device that helps you kind of automatically sample saliva and place it on a paper strip that is coated with different kind of biochemical receptors. So you can kind of check, if in the saliva you have certain biomarkers that are associated with certain disease or health condition. And because it's on the body all the time, you can continuously sample the body and see if you have any condition that we will kind of prohibit you from performing in space. So our vision for this project is to imagine the future society where our body can interface with technology all the time, and what kind of information we'll be able to get and be able to augment our life, and so on. So then once we have the information from the body, one idea that we were thinking about is how might we actually display or use this as the intervention. So actually it's kind of funny, this project came before the previous project, but it's kind of like the nice sequel to it. This one is called the Hormone Couture. It's a project that I collaborate with my friend at the Freak Lab, and Freak Lab is in Thailand, by the way. And we were imagining the idea of taking the information from biosensor on the body and trying to find a way to use fashion and avant-garde couture to actually visualize it. And this will be on the feedback loop side, so not on the sensing, right? So this device, was weird, first of all, and we were taking inspiration from many places, and what we were aiming to do is to create kind of like a cactus on the body. So then the cactus will be able to kind of change the condition based on the hormone level inside the person. And we fabricate this dress using 3D printing technology, so we can achieve the form that is kind of interesting and more complicated to fabricate. And this dress will behave differently based on the different hormone level. And we were sensing the hormone by looking at the skin temperature, because some of the hormone like estrogen or progesterone that we were looking at will also drive the change in body temperature as well. And this project was kind of created as a speculative design piece where we want to, ask whether the biotechnology on the body can help us rethink about the biopolitics, and what does it mean to have the body display the internal information from the inside. And this is kind of like the paper that we published. And we had a wonderful fashion show at the Materials Research Society last year. So beyond sensing and displaying, digital technology also has the ability to program the life itself, program the biological component itself. I'm pretty sure all of you might heard of the term genetic biology, right? Which is the use of genetic circuit and genetic engineering tool to intervene at the cellular level. And people have been using this genetic biology to produce multiple things, from human insulin to drugs, medicine, pigment for the fashion industry, and so on. There are companies that are built on this type of technology. Ginkgo Bio-Works is a spin-off from MIT. It's an organism company, very interesting. So they were engineering the biology for this. But the question that we ask is like, how might we program the biology, right? You can have genetic circuit that have electronic kind of diagram which compared to biology. You can have Shallow, which is a very interesting computer language that allow you to code in logic gate and convert into like biological program. Autodex, you have a software very interesting that allow you to actually drag and drop different genes, and then they will kind of compile it into a functional gene circuit that you can deploy in living organism. So I was inspired by all of this, and I was triggered by this new article in Wired magazine, which say that in the future we won't program computer, we will train them like dogs, right? And in a way, we already kind of living in that era where we have voice interface anyway. We can tell the Amazon Alexa or Google Home to do something, like we tell our dog to go and get something for us, maybe. And in a way, this is very magical, right? Because you're actually commanding something using your voice, kind of like Harry Potter, spelling something. So this project that I did kind of stem from the question, what if we can program biology by saying something, like we casting a spell on the animal, like in Harry Potter. So this project is called Voice Control Genes Transformer, which is a device that allows you to kind of genetic engineer the living organism based on the voice command that you use. The transformer came from the term transformation, where you're actually inserting the piece of DNA or plasmid into the living organism. And we made a device that you see earlier, this one, that that would allow us to kind of have a computer listen to the voice command and then control the syringe that contain different gene circuit to add to the bacteria. And this is what the device look like, a little bit more dystopian. But based on what you say, you can either make the bacteria turn red or turn green or turn blue based on the command that you actually say it. So this question, raised this kind of an interesting perspective. What if in the future you can do genetic engineering as easy as you just speak to Siri? How would that be like? We talk about the democratization of technology all the time. But when it's really frictionless like this, what kind of application or what kind of concern should we be thinking about? And finally, we can also use biology to grow, right? So as Suzanne Lee was talking during the opening of this exhibition, there's a project like Bio-Couture that allow us to grow a dress out of bacteria. What if in the future we could also grow a robot like we grow a dress? So this project came from my collaboration with my friend who's now at NASA and people at NTU in Singapore who were thinking about the way that we could grow electronic circuit inside the biological system. So as you can see here, this is some of our early experiment where we try to grow bacterial cellulose around the flexible solar cell. And one thing that is really exciting about using biological material is that it could sort of heal itself. If you cut it apart, you can throw it back in the bacteria reactor, and then it will start to rebuild itself in the area that you kind of destroy it or cut it apart. So what we do with this material is that we start to implement a growable robot where we add electronic part in this kind of bacteria reactor. So when the bacteria start to make this cellulose, it will encapsulate the motor and the electronic part, and it will become like a robot that kind of have part biological and part digital. And we envision that in the future, project like this would allow rovers or technology that we deploy on other planets to be able to have the self-healing properties, right? This project also inspired a friend of mine, Professor Kathia Vega, to also think about growable electronics. So not just robotic, but what if we have wearable devices you can regrow, or you have like a circuit that you can take it apart and then put it in a plant and it will recycle itself. Right? So this project, I hope, could kind of give you a little bit more of idea what I'm talking about when I think about when I say bio and digital coming together. And this is just one aspect of biodesign. There are much more to explore, right? So I really hope that as this community continue to grow, we'll be able to do more, not just bio or the digital, but all together. And that's why I think bio is the new digital. So thank you so much for Thank you. Thank you.